Hello everyone, welcome to the Fire This Mana show. And I found a very interesting article about Donald Trump and why he really isn't connected with Russia, and how his policies prove it, really. And I'm not going to do a video on Oprah running for president because I know everybody's doing a video on that, and I'm not going to talk about that to a great extent because that's being covered widely on the alternative media. So here it is. This is from antimedia.org, written by Darius. I can't say his last name. It is January 9th, 2018. And the article states, what Trump is doing in Ukraine proves the mainstream media doesn't know. And that word there. Okay? They don't know what they're talking about, basically. So, despite the media's insistence that President Donald Trump is some sort of compromised Russian lackey, which he isn't, at least there wasn't any evidence yet proven, the fact is that at the end of the year, his administration approved the largest U.S. commercial sale of lethal defensive weapons to Ukraine since 2014. This is a move that clearly infuriates and angers Russia, soaring relations between the two countries even more so than they already had been under the Obama administration. According to the Washington Post, administration officials confirmed that in December, the State Department has approved a commercial license authorizing the export of Model M107A1 sniper systems, ammunition, and other associated parts and accessories to Ukraine, a packaged value at $41.5 million. Again, a huge deal. So, as you can see here, so not only is Trump continuing and even selling more weapons than the previous administration has, but even when he bombed Syria, which is Assad's country, a sovereign nation, without congressional approval, and Assad is a major ally of Russia, and Russia is probably the biggest, the most powerful country that supports Assad in Syria. And so why would Trump bomb a country that is supported by Russia if he's a puppet of Vladimir Putin? I just don't see the connection that people like Rachel Maddow and the out of touch elites out there they have no clue what they're talking about. They'd rather say anything. They'd rather, instead of pointing at such policies such as these, they'd rather promote in essence, a conspiracy theory, because none of this is proven yet. Absolutely none of it. Zero, zilch, nada. Alright, let's continue. At first it was reported there had not yet been approval to export the heavy weaponry the Ukrainian government has been asking for, such as anti-tank missiles. However, by the end of December, reports began surfacing that the Trump administration was in fact going to provide 35 FGM 148 Javelin launchers and 210 anti-tank missiles. The Javelin is allegedly one of the most advanced anti-tank systems. So all this is in coordination with the NDA, the national, not the NDA. I can't think of the name. It's like a military act that he signed, the Defense Authorization Act, something along those lines. He signed before Christmas, and that basically increases the budget of the military and increases the weapons that are being sold to Ukraine. And this is an example of that right here. And Trump also signed a law stating that there should be more sanctions against Russia months ago. So there's no evidence whatsoever of Trump coordinating with Russia in any way, except for the earlier information about classified intelligence. But they were coordinating against terrorism, which was one of Trump's biggest issues. So that's the only time that he's really helped Russia in any way to combat a terrorist plot. That's the only reason. So again, one senior congressional official said that he predicted that this would be just the beginning, stating that the U.S. had, quote, crossed the Rubicon, that this is lethal weapons, and I predict more will be coming, according to the Post. Foreign Policy's Michael Carpenter suggested that NATO countries should follow suit and also provide Ukraine with the arms it needs to counter the so-called threat of Russia. Again, why do we have NATO still? What's the point of NATO? Russia is not a communist nation anymore. Russia is not a Soviet nation anymore. So why are we continually acting like Russia's a threat to the West? Now, I understand Russia did overtake Ukraine recently, or in years past, yes. But there's no evidence that Russia hacked the United States election. There's no evidence that Russia hacked the French elections that French President Macron kept enunciating over and over again. There's no evidence of it whatsoever. So why is Russia this blame game? It's easy to blame. That's why Hillary Clinton, when she lost the election to Donald Trump, because of his populist agenda, his populist movement. Not all conservatives voted for Donald Trump, not only conservatives. Many independents and many people, former voters, supporters of Bernie Sanders, voted for Donald Trump because he was a populist. He was against free trade agreements. He claimed to be against free trade agreements. He claimed to be against outsourcing jobs. He claimed to be anti-war. And well, now you can see he increased the military budget dramatically, which made John McCain get up and clap, but that's a whole different other story. And yes, he bombed Syria, which was a huge disappointment, and he sold billions of dollars in weapons deals to Saudi Arabia, which was obviously disappointing. But all other presidents, Republican or Democrat, have done the same thing. So, it's just not surprising, sadly, but that at least that sort of populist agenda is gone in that regard of the war, because he has increased tensions with Russia dramatically militarily in the Middle East, especially in regard to Syria. But let's continue. Russia has responded in kind, with Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov stating that the U.S. has become an accomplice in the war and that these developments make it impossible for Russia to remain indifferent, thereby forcing Russia to consider retaliation measures in response. They have to consider retaliation. Like, think about this is like Britain giving Canada weapons. Like, think of it hypothetically like this. Like, if someone gave Mexico or Canada lots of weapons, stockpile weapons, against the United States would have to respond accordingly. The United States would have to push for sanctions or military action or send embargo, something to combat a threat. And this is similar. It's just like North Korea. The UN has voted overwhelmingly to put sanctions on North Korea because of their stockpile program of chemical weapons. Now, these sanctions I don't really believe in them, because they're actually hurting the innocent people of North Korea more, because they have no food or anything, because the situation in North Korea is terrible from the very start anyway, because most of its citizens are malnourished and all that. So anyway, let's continue. The U.S. is the world's largest arms dealer. The United States arms so many countries so much of the time that most of us barely blink. And yet, even taking at face value America's stated goals of spreading democracy and promoting human rights, the facts on the ground appear to run contrary to those ideals, and the United States is well aware of these contradictions. For example, Yemen. A UN worker said that the situation in Yemen is the worst since World War II, the worst humanitarian crisis since World War II. Can you believe that? That's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Millions of people are malnourished. Millions of people are displaced in Yemen because of the United States funding, giving U.S.-made weapons to Saudi Arabia in exchange for the petrodollar. And Saudi Arabia bombs the heck out of Yemen because they don't like the Houthi rebels that have overtaken the Saudi puppet there in Yemen. So, since the Houthi rebels have overtaken a Saudi puppet in Yemen, then then that's why they're bombing them like crazy. It was just terrible. One story I heard, like someone was attending a funeral or a wedding and that got bombed. Just terrible things that are against international law. So I'll put this link below. It also describes how the U.S. installed public government in Ukraine, as well as the State Department promoting neo-Nazism in Ukraine. So I'll put the link below, and please follow me on minds.com, gab.ai, and Steemit. And thank you guys so much for listening.